Imagine your bank account gets frozen tomorrow. All your bank accounts, your stock portfolio, all those things that banks and governments can freeze are locked tomorrow. You cannot go to an ATM, your bills are stacking up, and additionally, there's also hyperinflation in your currency going on. Now, many of us, including me most of the times, think that can never happen. Like, this can never happen to countries like the USA, the European countries, to Canada, to all those safe Western countries. We have those institutions, we have the currency, we have all those amazing things. But it's very much a possibility. And today's podcast shows an amazing story of Imad. He has gone through that very exact situation, not once, but twice. He went to Lebanon and he went to Greece. Both of those things he experienced firsthand. This episode is a very important one. Enjoy. Maybe before we get started with all the topics, give the viewers and the listeners some brief background of who you are and especially why you're excited about Bitcoin.
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Imad Jack Karam, IJK, and my world sits at the intersection of technology, music, and also podcasting. And I'm also a Bitcoin enthusiast. So on the technology side, I work in digital growth and AI marketing. So basically how people find information online and how businesses can leverage AI technology to basically grow their presence online and grow their businesses online and their revenues. On the music side, I'm an independent singer-songwriter. Music is basically my creative outlet and a big part of who I am. And when it comes to podcasting, as you said, you've been on my podcast. It's really where I ask the interesting questions, where I try to learn every day. So I host the IJK podcast, and I sit basically there with subject matter experts, founders, entrepreneurs, but also philosophers, scientists, and basically I try to explore with them big ideas. So anything between tech, business, philosophy, creativity. I really love long-form conversations because basically they let you kind of go beyond the headlines and actually understand how the world works. So that's it. I hope this is a good introduction.
Absolutely. I love that. And how did you find, with the background of technology and AI, Bitcoin? Because you've been a recent Bitcoin, I think like 1 year or something like that.
Yes, I've been stacking Bitcoins for the past year and a half, I would say. So to be honest, in the past, and that was like maybe 6-7 years ago, I did want to dive more into Bitcoin, but I was living in a geography where it was difficult to actually buy Bitcoin. So I was living in the UAE at that time. That was maybe 2018 or 2019. And at that time, I was reading, I'm usually interested in investing in general. And Bitcoin was then starting to make some headlines. So I read about it and I was interested. I had some friends even who recommended, that I dive deeper into Bitcoin and even invest in Bitcoin. And I wanted to do so, but the problem is the banking system there at that time was not ready kind of for you to transact on those exchanges. So it was difficult for me to avail Bitcoin to get it. And then I lost interest because simply I was not able to acquire some Bitcoin. Fast forward 2023 here, when I moved to Canada, I here, like, it's an open market. Bitcoin is very popular, and I was able to start stacking my first satoshis. And I've been then reading more about the philosophy of Bitcoin, about the network, about the kind of the mission that Bitcoin is on. And so basically, as you know, it's an open global system governed by rules that you can verify rather than just promises that you have to believe. So the philosophy of Bitcoin really attracted me to the platform, to the technology, and and add to that. So just to give a little bit of background about myself, I'm originally Lebanese. So and most of my life I've made all my savings in Lebanon. So I saved most of my money and put them in banks in Lebanon. And in 2019, there was a huge crisis in Lebanon, banking crisis. Virtually everybody who deposited money in the banks lost their money because the government didn't allow, the central bank didn't allow you to withdraw any money anymore from the banks. And this is still happening till this day. So up to today, you cannot go and then just take your money from the bank. You can take just a small amount per month. So this is kind of what they call the capital control policy. A little bit similar to what happened in Greece. By the way, I'm also Greek. And this happened I think 10 years ago in Greece. So it happened in the two countries where I have citizenship from. But in Lebanon, it was worse. In Greece, at least Greece was bailed out eventually by the European Union, right? And I think a few years later, although they did introduce capital control rules, you were able then to extract all your money. But in Lebanon, up to this day, you cannot, even if you're a millionaire, you can only take a small amount of money per month from your money. So this is where Bitcoin came in, because Bitcoin's promise is that you don't have to trust any financial or central institutions. You basically, at the end of the day, it's verified by a network and nobody really owns the decisions here. So this is why I kind of got excited. And then, yeah, since then, I never looked back, and Bitcoin is always part of my portfolio.
But were you in Lebanon when this happened, or you already went into the UAE?
Okay, I was already in the UAE. But let me tell you something interesting. Most Lebanese historically, even by nature, Lebanese travel a lot and then they work outside of their country. This has always been the case since I as far as I can remember. But most of them usually save their money in Lebanon, even though they work in another country. They would always send their money back home, because historically the banking system of Lebanon had a very good reputation. Lebanon was called, pre the 70s, the Switzerland of the Middle East, because we had such a strong banking system and we had the banking secrecy. And at that time, we were the most advanced country in the region when it comes to services and banking services especially. So you had at that time, and even later, even during the war, you had most rich people in the region, in the Middle East region, sending their money to Lebanon, because Lebanon has a strong banking system. There's this banking secrecy. So even rich people from GCC countries or Arab countries would usually invest or save in Lebanon. So I was no exception. My money was mostly there. And my father's money was there. All my family, my wife, most of us, have savings there, and large savings, a significant amount. So suddenly, overnight, the banking system collapsed because of corruption. The country is quite corrupted when it comes to politics and policies. And unfortunately, the reputation of the banking system is no longer what it was. So this, our banking system in Lebanon needs now deep restructuring from the bottom up. And I think reputation has to be rebuilt to attract again investors.
It's super interesting, because I strongly believe that if corruption is possible, it is just a matter of time till it happens. So if there is a system where you can corrupt people and get an unfair advantage and basically take advantage of the system, it's only a matter of time till it actually will happen. And so I find Lebanon such an interesting example, because, as you said, it was great at one point. It was secure, secret, all of those things. And then something happened slowly but surely, and it came to a massive outfall. And then everyone realized, oh, I want to have my money outside of that system. I personally believe the same thing is happening overall to the banking system. How do you think, having lived through Greece and Lebanon, and now you're in Canada, I don't know, maybe Canada is happening something similar. Maybe you an indicator being in a country. I don't know. But like, do you think that it's just like a matter of time till systems that rely basically on trust and are centralized in that matter, where there is some management team or some kind of like CEO of a bank that can be corrupted, that it's just a matter of time till those systems fail eventually?
I do think so, yes. Now, of course, some countries or some cultures are less kind of, how can I say, less prone to corruption. But I think human beings in general are we are prone to corruption. We are, at the end of the day, human beings. And, like we can do good, we can do bad. Given certain circumstances, we are tempted to do bad, right? If it's in our own interest, it's only in the human nature. Now, in certain cultures, it's more difficult, or societies, it's more difficult to do that. Why? Because you have a system of rules, you have a strong law system. You get punished if you do something bad, right? But in some countries where law is not always applied, or it's applied only selectively, like, for example, I can talk about my country, Lebanon. Unfortunately, it has come to that point. In the past, it was better, but corruption happens. It happened. And it's bound to happen in other cultures. Whenever you find a culture where law no longer applies, or law only applies to a certain category of people, then for sure you will have an imbalance in the system. And then some people will benefit from that system, some people will not. That's what corruption is at the end of the day. It's like when you do things that only benefit you, and then you disregard the common good. And it's only a matter of time where this collapse will happen. And unfortunately, I see that in the West happening, maybe slowly, but probably surely as well, if nothing is done. Because look at the crisis of the financial crisis of 2008, like the great financial crisis, right? It affected most of the West, countries in Europe, even North America, and the financial system collapsed. But at the end of the day, if you think of it, who paid the price? The people who paid the price are the common people, right? Who basically had to suffer. By actually, first of all, the financial crisis killed the stock market. So if you were an investor in the stock market, you lost a lot of your investments. People who architected this crisis, who created that crisis, were mainly financial engineers who created those exotic products, CDOs, and like all those derivatives on top of the subprime mortgages at that time. They created them, and it's true, like some financial institutions collapsed. Lehman Brothers collapsed. Merrill Lynch was bought by Bank of America. I, by the way, used to work for Merrill Lynch at that time. I didn't leave because of that. I had an opportunity to work in another firm like a few months before the financial crisis. So I shifted to another industry, but that's another topic. All I'm saying is the following: bankers and the financial engineers who engineered all these exotic products, who at the end of the day brought down the financial system, were never prosecuted. They were never put in jail. They never paid the price. Who paid the price? People paid the price. The common person, the common investor. And so this is where, when you see sometimes financial systems that are easily swayed in one direction, then you wonder, where is the fairness? Where is the applicability of laws? Okay, so this is where there is a need to have an independent, fair financial system where everybody has the same rights. And this is, I think, something that Bitcoin can achieve, in the future.
It's fascinating. You saw Greece, you saw Lebanon, and you even worked at Merrill Lynch, the bank associated with the financial crisis also. So you have a lot of background basically in what can go wrong in the fiat system, and what system then can be corrupted. I also like a system that can be corrupted will be corrupted at some point. And so you were prone to be a Bitcoin. if you look at it, like you were into technology and you saw how bad the banking technology is, and especially I think as technologists, which I also count myself in, we always try to look at what is a system actually looking like, and is it sustainable? Is it something interesting? And if you look at the banking system, just from a purely technology standpoint, you're like, okay, there's one guy, or like there's not a one guy, but there's like basically one instance that can say how much of the monetary supply is here, and they can go up and down with that monetary supply as much as they want, and in certain boundaries though, but like mostly as much as they want. And then they can say, I don't transact on Sundays. They can say, we cannot transact on Saturdays, and we cannot transact after 6 p.m. All of this is like, it's not that exciting as a technologist, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you work in a financial system, you want that financial system to be available at all times, to be really kind of reliable at all times, and if you only rely on the element of trust, right? Because this is what the current system or the incumbent system is trying to offer, trust. Okay, for a person like me, I did trust in the past the financial institutions, and millions of people like me have lost money, have lost a lot of money by just basing their decisions on that trust. So how can you then repeat the same mistake in the future, even though you have guarantees from those organizations that your money is safe? And one funny example, I remember, so in Lebanon, very close towards the collapse of the financial system, like a few months before, bank tellers used to call us, and then to call many people, asking people to put even more money, because they said, yeah, suddenly the interest rate, if you save your money in our bank, we're going to give you triple or quadruple the interest rate. Like they would give you like 8%, 10% if you save, and then just don't remove your money and then put more money. And then some people went for that. They just believed them, but actually they were doing that because some people felt that there was something going on, and then the capital was starting to go away from those banks. But guess what? Most people don't have that information, and then many people were fooled and then put more money there, and then they lost everything they had. So the element of trust doesn't work in the financial system the way it used to work before. Things have to change, and this is why now we're stepping into an era of technology. Technology allows you to verify rather than trust, and if the technology is reliable and it's constantly upgraded and it's open source or not owned by a central entity, then I think this is something that could solve the trust problem. It has to be available at all time. You don't have to kind of rely on personal feeling to make a transaction. You rely on a system that is everybody contributes to the system in that way. There is not one central holder of the decisions. So yeah.
What do you mean by new era of technology?
So, the technology of the blockchain. So basically, blockchain is a very interesting concept because, and it's a revolutionary concept in the world of finance, right? Because in the past, when you have central banks, that had that kind of sacred position in a certain country, in countries that made all the financial decisions, and then they used to operate based on, as I said before, based on trust. So you would put your faith in the central bank or in the banking system to preserve your capital, and then to even contribute to it through interest, right? This is how it used to operate. But those institutions are made of people, correct? So you have the central bank governor, then you have the staff, then you have bankers. But what if the system gets corrupted over time? And this tends to happen, and it happened in many locations. Maybe it's not as frequent here in the West, but in other parts of the world, this has happened multiple times. So, we spoke about the example of Greece, for instance. Again, corruption was the problem. Lebanon, same thing. Corruption was the problem. I'm sure that many other geographies, maybe in Africa or in Asia, have suffered from similar circumstances. So when we talk about those financial institutions, and you oppose that with a system like the blockchain, in the blockchain, there's no element of trust. There's no human element. It's the blockchain itself, the technology that is built and engineered in such a way that you rely mostly on verification. And unless the system fails, so that there is a technological problem, or there is, let's say, a bug, or there's a hacking that happens, then you might have a disruption of your financial transaction. And that's another story. We can talk about that. That's one of the risks, for example, that I see in technologies like Bitcoin. But these things, if properly planned and properly engineered, can be minimized. But at least what you do here, you remove the human element that is prone to corruption, because this is a system that is the same for the rich and for the poor. Whatever class you belong to, you are working with the same infrastructure. And this is the key difference that I see, is something that I think the future of finance will tend to, even if it's, in the worst case scenario, even if Bitcoin doesn't work in the end, what's going to come next is going to be something inspired by Bitcoin or similar to Bitcoin in terms of the technology. You see what I mean? So, and I was also, by the way, looking at watching a podcast recently by Jeff Booth, I think, who was one of your guests in the past. And he was saying that Bitcoin has introduced a new protocol. You can think of it as a protocol like TCP/IP for the internet. So the Bitcoin has introduced a protocol that is really a novelty in the world of finance. And as I said, it's more like technology-based and system-based, that is much less prone to human error than a central bank or a central entity-based system where corruption can always change things and then corrupt at the end the system.
Yeah, I think there is a really interesting point, because I do think Bitcoin will, at the end of the day, persuade and win. But even if we go in this thought experiment of saying, what if Bitcoin for some reason fails, I think the idea of Bitcoin is now so strong in the world that it will at some point happen that we have some money, or like the idea of Bitcoin in the world. And I think this is a really strong point. This is like, we will do that. And I mean, there has been Bitcoin is not the first attempt to do that. There has been like tries beforehand. Bitcoin is just the first attempt that actually went mainstream and went into a very long success around. And it's always interesting, because we're still so early in the process of it, but at the same time we already reached so much. It's kind of like always hard to have that balance where we went already far, like the president is talking about it and all of those things, but we are very small still when it comes to like how many people actually use it, how many people actually know about it. It's like a very small percentage of the overall population, but the overall idea of sound money, it's now so into the system that we're like, of course we need that. Like we know the problems with the fiat currencies, and there's like two main things that I want to get to, maybe later also on the Bitcoin and blockchain side that you mentioned before. But before that, I want to also get your thoughts on, do you think that the same thing that happened in the Middle East with Lebanon, or like in Greece and Europe, that the same thing can actually happen in the West also? Because you mentioned that it's not here, but is it possible that those things just like spread overall?
I think so, yes. I think there's it's not impossible for this to happen in the West, and even in big countries and big economies like, I don't know, France or Canada, or anywhere. It could happen anywhere. At the end of the day, it's maybe the chances are lower, but it's not impossible, because when you have people making the decisions and people behind those institutions, as I said before, people are prone to error, people are prone to corruption, and why wouldn't that happen in a geography where, for example, you have like the lawmakers who become corrupted. When lawmakers become corrupted, then if you're doing corruption, you're not prosecuted, and if you're not prosecuted, then you can do more corruption. And at the end of the day, people in your orbit will benefit from that corruption, and then the whole system becomes at the end of the day corrupted. If we take the example of Greece, Greece is not a Middle Eastern country. It's part of the European Union, right? And it's clear if you read like about what happened in 2000 and between 2008 and 2010 mainly, and then the collapse happened somewhere around that, and then the bailout maybe a little bit later. Most people who I've talked to at that time, and many of them are economists and people who really understand the Greek market, said that corruption is the main problem and was the main kind of reason that was pointed by the finger that actually caused these this problem in the economy. So over the years, money was not properly used in Greece, and instead of being invested in the right project, etc., it was the victim of corruptions, and the same thing happened in Lebanon a few years later. So all I'm saying is it's not unusual for corruption to creep into systems and then to slowly erode them over time. Now, in some geographies and in some countries, the price of corruption is very high. So you can go to jail, and it's usually you're easily uncovered. But if, let's say, we can easily imagine a scenario where a certain political party takes over, let's say, a country, and then corruption starts in the party, and then that party then covers certain operations that benefit that party. Over time, if that party stays enough with the power, so if that party is enough in power for, let's say, like 10 years, the whole system might become corrupted. And the financial system is the first layer, because when we talk about corruption, we talk about money. So it can totally happen in any country. So I believe that eventually people should ask or should demand for a system that would at least keep them shielded or keep them immune to any form of corruption, because this is something that happens in many areas in the world, and there is a chance that it could happen anywhere.
The most effective way to buy Bitcoin is to DCA, dollar cost average, or ECA, euro cost average, into your Bitcoin position long term with the Relai app. It's the consistency of buying every day, every week, every month that compounds and really builds the position that you want to have in Bitcoin. And for that, I'm using Relai. Relai is Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app, the biggest one in Europe, that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. Relai is also self-custodial. So from the first second onwards, where you buy the Bitcoin on Relai, they are in your self-custodial control. They never have the keys to your Bitcoin. No freezing of your assets, no counterparty risk, no rug pulling whatsoever. And honestly, it's the simplest app that I've ever used in the whole Bitcoin ecosystem. Super easy to set up and super easy to buy your Bitcoin consistently. So set up your DCA with code ROBIN on the Relai app today. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today. And you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io. Finally, we have BTC Prague back in 2026. And this year, I'm not only speaking on a panel, but I'm actually going to present an interesting new angle, a perspective, a Bitcoin thesis at BTC Prague this year for the first time ever. I've never done that on any other conference, so this will be a fun one. If you listen to this show on a regular basis, I would love to meet you in Prague this year. It's very high signal, no noise, and Prague is just a freaking amazing city with awesome drinks and a lot of good food. Use code ROBIN to get 10% off, and if you buy with Bitcoin, you get an additional 5% off your ticket price. I'll see you there in Prague. Make sure to come say hi. I want to get into this also because you said it's very hard for other technologies to catch up with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I 100% obviously agree with you, but why do you think so? Like, what are kind of the cornerstones that are making Bitcoin? Because like it's especially for newcomers, it's very hard to understand. Yeah, it's like open source and everyone can just copy the thing, and so like why couldn't there another technology like catch up easily with it? What do you think is like the kind of the cornerstones that make the mode of Bitcoin so much better than other technologies that have a very hard time catching up with Bitcoin currently?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I believe at the end of the day, any financial system or any system in life, what decides its success is the adoption, is how many people are already signed up on board. Bitcoin now is having governments signing up on board, right? So we have, I mean, even if you look at the US, we have the current administration is endorsing Bitcoin. So you have this backing up, not only by just now like people, but also institutions like BlackRock, like all those big ETFs have now integrated Bitcoin into their portfolios. Bitcoin is like, and this all gives legitimacy. So for a new system to now start from scratch and then catch up all these achievements is going to be extremely hard. It's like saying, you know, I'm Coca-Cola now, and tomorrow I'm going to launch a new beverage that is similar to Coca-Cola. I mean, what is my chance to succeed and overtake Coca-Cola? It's very low. Why? Because Coca-Cola is now pervasive. Like it's not only used by people, but also companies, also restaurants. You see, like everybody like is using Coca-Cola. It has like kind of this positioning, and then it has in a way created the market of this, you know, dark drink that is fizzy. So for me to come in and create something from scratch, it's not impossible. Again, it's not impossible, but I think that the probability is very small, right? So this is kind of my point. Bitcoin has been there like for now almost 2 decades, right? Approximately. And it has never failed so far. It has never been hacked. The adoption is only increasing year after year. It's not going backward, it's going forward. Okay, I understand that the prices have been kind of, you know, up and down, but this has always been the case since day one, right? So prices go up, prices go down, and then a new breed of investors then enter Bitcoin. But when you see year after year, big institutions adopting it, now there's even regulation that is now built around Bitcoin. I mean, all those new regulatory moves that are being done mainly in the States, right? They are all built with Bitcoin mainly in mind. So because Bitcoin is the king of all cryptocurrencies. So I see that there's a lot of involvement. There's a lot at stake. So for a new technology to come and overtake all this overnight, it's going to be very difficult, in my opinion.
How much of the success do you think of Bitcoin is because of the origin story with Satoshi Nakamoto not having a head you can kind of attack, because we still don't know who it is. And I have a very hard feeling that we probably never will know, because it's if there's such a big bounty on one's head for almost 2 decades now, it's almost impossible now that this person comes out. Most likely he's already dead. And he took no pre-mine. He did not take any advantage over the system. He gave everyone a fair share, everyone a fair chance to get into the system after it got started. He even went ahead and made sure that the first mining reward block was not obtainable. So it's like even the first 50 Bitcoin, he didn't take himself. He was like kind of like burning that because it was not fair to the system. That was not yet discovered. I mean, now he, of course, controls, or maybe not, depending on if he holds the key to this 1,100,000 Bitcoin that is kind of associated with his name. But he never took advantage of the system. He didn't pre-mine like with the other cryptos. You usually have like a pre-mine, a pre-stake, where the founders have already kind of nest egg of coins before it even goes live and stuff like that. How much of the success of Bitcoin is because of this mysterious origin story that is Satoshi Nakamoto? And is maybe this also one of the things that is very hard to replicate?
Yeah, I think the origin story is very interesting. It's it adds, as you said, to the mystery, and it adds to the mission also of Bitcoin, that at the end of the day, nobody actually owns Bitcoin. And Satoshi Nakamoto is simply just a moniker, but we don't actually know who that is. It might be like a person, one person. It might be many people. We don't really know. And at the end of the day, this goes very well with the mission of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is for everyone. Bitcoin is like there's no like one person who owns Bitcoin. So it's really part of this this philosophy whereby everyone is in a way equal on the blockchain, right? Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you're influent, you're not influent, whether you live in the West or you live in the East, it's all the same. So this anonymity and this kind of like impersonality, I think, is embedded in the philosophy of Bitcoin. And this adds more to the kind of appeal, because I believe that everybody, anyone, whether you're educated or not educated, can benefit by entering into the Bitcoin system. At least if they don't want to put like a significant portion, at least diversify and then start understanding what is this new form of money, a new form of financial system, and what value it can add to your financial situation, right? So, and I think education here is very important. The education aspect is extremely important. The problem that I see is that many people fear Bitcoin because of the volatility. They think that, you know, if they put money in Bitcoin, they're going to lose all the money and all their investment, because it may go down, but it may go up as well. So if people have a long-term time horizon, and if people understand the benefits that this platform offers, and the benefits are, you know, independence, the benefits are, you know, you're part of a new era of financial system that's going to only increase from here on and evolve from here on. You know, I believe that it will really help the adoption to go faster, even faster. And yeah, so education is extremely important. And I think what you're doing here on your podcast is very important as well. I noticed that you always bring experts, and then you always talk about Bitcoin to really educate people about what it is, and to kind of also explain how things work, and then maybe also appease the anxieties and fears. Many people, like especially older, I believe the older generation is a little bit resistant to Bitcoin. Why? Because they are used to the traditional financial instruments and financial assets, and they don't necessarily understand you know, the benefits of Bitcoin. But I think that you know, with education and with proper I mean, with trying, if they just open an account and then on those exchanges, and then start investing a small amount, and then see how it works for themselves, and then most importantly wait, and then people need to have a long time horizon. Just entering into Bitcoin to making a buck or making money on the short term doesn't work. I don't believe this is kind of a sound way to approach Bitcoin. Me personally, I approach it as a long-term investment. I just stack and I don't think about them. I don't think about trading, like buying low and then selling high. I'm not into that, especially not on the Bitcoin front, because I do believe in the long-term vision of the technology. This is why I think like the way people approach it is very important as well, like in which mindset you approach that. So again, to answer your question, coming back to the founder of Bitcoin, we don't know who that is. We probably will never know, but that's not very important. What's important is at the end of the day, what has been created. And I believe what has been created is a fair system, the future of money, something that even governments are adopting nowadays, big institutions, political parties. I mean, across the world, you have like people entering into Bitcoin. And the good news is that it's getting legitimacy even from those kind of institutions and those organizations. And I believe this only gives it more power and more and will accelerate adoption.
Now, you're also a lot into AI, and so I'm curious how you think the connection between AI and Bitcoin is, because we talk a lot about AI also on the podcast. Actually, it also is kind of, if I wouldn't have a Bitcoin podcast, I probably would go deeper into AI because it's I think the most interesting technology currently outside of Bitcoin, for me at least. How do you look at a connection, if at all, between AI and Bitcoin?
Yeah, so AI is also a very interesting technology that has emerged recently. I mean, it's been there for like decades now, but we've only really seen it since ChatGPT really came out to the public, right? In I think end of 2022 already. It's been 4 years already. ChatGPT came out, AI became mainstream. Everybody, at least generative AI, which is the form of AI that generates based on inputs, that generates new content based on inputs. So it's a very interesting technology, very emerging, but also it's going to be very disruptive. AI is going to change dramatically how we live as humans in society, whether it's the working society, so whether it's like people who work in companies, so jobs will be changed, the way companies operate will change over time. And I believe there's a strong affinity between AI and Bitcoin, to come back to your question. It's not kind of impossible to imagine a scenario whereby AI agents, and then let me just explain. An AI agent is basically a non-human agent, so powered by AI, that does things that human used to do. For example, shopping for you. Like an AI agent can go online and then order on behalf of Robin whatever Robin wants every week, as groceries, as shopping items, and then it does everything based on your past preferences and past behavior, and it does this independently. So this is kind of the future we are going into. Now, when it comes to payments, Bitcoin is a digital payment currency, right? It's a digital way to transact, and I see a total affinity between an AI system, so an image of us doing things that we used to do, using a digital form of payment, because it's much more secure. It's kind of easy to verify. There's no like human element that is corrupting the system. So I see that the convergence of those two is going to be a very big success if done correctly, of course. But I see that a lot of innovation should happen at the intersection of those two exciting technologies that are happening right now.
What do you think is actually, I'm thinking about that a lot, because whenever a new technology arises, it looks small in the beginning, it looks insignificant and inefficient in the beginning, and then 10, 20, 30, 50 years out, it looks very obvious how it changed society, which it didn't look when it came out. And I'm thinking that with Bitcoin, like what will Bitcoin change in our society? But I think with AI, it's even more interesting what it changed on a society level, where what are we now doing? How are we now approaching the life, and how different will we approach life once we are not in this beginning phase of AI, but what if we are 20 years, 30 years down the road? It's I think a very difficult question to answer, but I think a very interesting one to kind of ponder around. Have you thought about like what is the most significant way AI will change our life?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the exciting thing about AI, or let's call it more, I mean, not only exciting, but the important thing about AI is the following. AI is like any technology, it's a double-edged sword. There will be a lot of benefits that can come from AI, and we are already seeing a lot of these benefits. So, for example, if we talk about AI applied in medicine, right? AI is now enabling us to discover diseases much earlier. They're enabling us to automate many of those research tasks that medical researchers do to discover drugs. So I believe, for example, in medicine, AI will be able to unlock new therapies at a record time that we never had the chance to do so before. So many diseases that were unaddressed so far we will be able to cure them, hopefully in a relatively short amount of time. That's just an example. So clearly the benefits are there. Now there are also drawbacks. And this is kind of where we as a human being should be mindful of the drawbacks. So for example, AI, as we see it now, taking over, will probably have many people lose their jobs. Now, again, here, the answer is more nuanced. Some jobs will get transformed. So some jobs will integrate AI, but they'll change, you see. So for example, if we talk about developers or coders, people who code software, I don't know if you've heard about Claude Code. Claude Code is the latest version of Claude that is extremely powerful. I've had a chance to try it. It's extremely powerful, even if you don't know how to code and if you didn't study software engineering. You can totally use that system or use that technology to create your own software by just prompting Claude Code, and it will create for you whatever application you want in a record amount of time. So people who don't know how to code now can code through that, which means that the job of the typical traditional web developer, let's say, or software developer in general, is now threatened, right? Because the company no longer necessarily wants to keep the same amount of developers, because using those systems, Claude Code and the like, you can do the same amount of work faster with only 10% or 20% of the workforce. So there will be a lot of job losses. And when you say job losses at scale in society, because let's think about it, the West mainly, and especially advanced economies, are usually economies that rely a lot on white-collar workers. White-collar means like people who work behind a laptop, people who create models, people who code, people who, anything that has a cognitive, repetitive amount of or type of work is now threatened, because you can automate now coding, you can automate consulting, a big portion of it. You can automate maybe accounting as well, and finance, like financial modeling and planning. All this now can be automated or at least simplified to a great extent with AI. So all those white-collar jobs are threatened, and this is a problem. So so here, I think regulation and government should play a role by ensuring that AI, like the advances and the like, let's say, the benefits that AI will unlock are evenly distributed, and people who lose their job should have some form of compensation, or let's not call it compensation, but they should kind of reorient themselves, and there should be probably programs to help them to reorient their career to something else where they are still helpful. They are still contributing to the society and the economy, because I think that's kind of one of the challenges that we will face very soon.
But isn't that something we face in history so many times already? Like at some point, America worked 80% on farms, and now it's like 5%. And we kind of went through that revolution where the tractor came onto the farm and all those technologies, where now we don't have to have like 50 people on one farm, but like rather like 10 or 20 people on one farm, and the farm is outputting like 3 times as much as before with 50 people. Isn't that challenge of there will be not less jobs, there will just be different kind of jobs? Or is AI different in a way because it replaces all kind of necessary jobs? The most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together.
Your remark is correct in certain things, but I would like to kind of distinguish it a little bit from what's happening right now. So in the past, this is true. Like you had a new technology that comes that replaces an old one, and the jobs are transformed. So you do something different, and then you are embedded in the new economy in a certain way. The difference this time is that AI is not only a kind of a new technology. Like for example, agriculture. Now you work, instead of working in a farm, now you work in a maybe a production facility that produces cans, right? Canned, let's say vegetables, whatever. No, here this is quite different. What's happening is that AI, first of all, the pace of the innovation and the pace of the change is exponential with AI. It's very fast in a very short amount of time. So there's the speed. So the speed aspect is way higher this time. Second, if you listen to most technologies or most even tech leaders that are in the space of AI, like Bill Gates, for example, they are predicting that not only people who work in the tech field or white collar, like everybody in the society, over time, we will not have to work anymore. That's what I keep on hearing. Like everybody will not, working will become optional because AI is expected to unlock or like, let's say to disrupt not only one sector, but all sectors eventually. Now we are talking now about softwares and white collar work and consulting and non-physical AI. But very soon, in the next 2 to 5 years, AI will even affect the physical, like the jobs that are physical in nature. So physical AI will also disrupt the blue collar workforce this time. So robots will do the work that people used to do. And so the scenario that we are presented with is that over time, nobody will need to work. So you will find time to do things at home. You will find time to do your hobbies. But this is also an issue. Why? Because, I don't know, how a human being can really find meaning in life with just like, staying home and then doing their hobbies. Not everybody has hobbies in the first place, right? That's the thing. But this is kind of the scenario we're presented with. So this is why it's different this time, you see, Robin. So in the past, it was affecting one sector. It took a bit of time to get things in place, and then the transformation gave you enough time to kind of reskill and upskill yourself to do something else, and it didn't affect all branches of society at the same time. Now we're seeing not only a very fast pace of disruption, but we're seeing this affecting every single, most job types. And even they're saying that eventually physical AI is not so long or not so far away. Even that is coming very soon with the robots. So this is where like the unknown is a little bit kind of worrying for some. And this is where I think regulations, and more importantly, I even believe like tech leaders, they should kind of also help. Why? Because the people who own those technologies, like companies who own all those very important technologies, will have at one point in time concentrated in their hands all the power and all the productivity. So there should be a way where it has to be evenly distributed. Otherwise, you'll end up in a world where only very few people control everything, and then everybody else has no jobs, has no function. And how will they consume? How will the economy then work? So these are like big questions that I'm currently hearing about because of the AI disruption.
I'm not so sure with the companies, because I think the history has shown that big companies always fail. Like if we look at the biggest companies 50 years ago, they look very different to the biggest company 20 years ago, to very different to what the biggest companies are right now versus the biggest company like 100 years ago. So there's like almost like life cycles of companies. I think the only successful companies, if you can call them companies, are governments. And even those have cycles that are up and down, and even those are failing. And like the Roman Empire was so big one day, and now it's the USA, but USA is also crumbling down a little bit here and there now. It's like I have a hard time accepting that like maybe it's happening now with like Bitcoin and AI and all those things, that like it's not impossible. But like history kind of has shown us that once a system is so big that everyone in that system is doing so nice that it kind of like they're dropping the ball. And then there's like a new innovation coming up, and like a new like startup. And I mean, yeah, that will be interesting to see, because if there's like, let's say OpenAI with Microsoft is like the most successful one, and they're kind of taking over the whole world, and now the whole world is depending on like one company that is called OpenAI, or like Microsoft, or like however the construct is then called, and they are kind of on the up there, and nobody else can even compete with them. It could become a problem. I'm just not sure if it ever happens, because history kind of shown that big companies get stagnant and at some point are kind of losing the grip on innovation, and there's a new thing coming up that kind of takes their place.
I mean, yeah, it would be an interesting scenario to see how things will develop over time. But as you said, usually concentrated power give it a long amount of time, because and I don't know if you've checked the book and the content of Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio is a very big visionary. He's a financial guy. I think he has one of the most successful hedge funds in the world, and he's talked about like how empire fail over time. And then he has a book called The New World Order, very interesting book that I highly recommend people to check. And he talks about the life cycle of empires. Like he starts with the Dutch Empire, then he goes into the British Empire, and then the American Empire, etc., etc. And he talks about this idea that you just mentioned, like when you are too big and too strong, then you start kind of slacking in a way. You sleep on your laurels, and then internal conflicts happen, and then this is the start of your demise in a way. And then a new empire takes advantage and then emerges from that. Yeah, this is true. What you're saying is like true, but over a long period of time. The thing with AI is like AI like relies on a technology that is growing at an exponential rate. So if you think of it, like 3 or 4 years ago when ChatGPT was, first came out, it used to be just a chatbot, right? You would talk to ChatGPT, it would come back with an answer, and already that was impressive. All right. Now, if you look at ChatGPT, it's still the same technology, but look what it does. Just in 3-4 years, now it can read images. Now it can generate videos through Sora. It's kind of a new extension in ChatGPT. It can generate videos. Last week, I've seen an app called Dance 2.0. I don't know if you've seen it. Check it out. Now, with this app, this is not, by the way, ChatGPT. That's another company. It's a Chinese company called ByteDance, the one that owns TikTok. They have released that AI-powered video generator. Now you can generate, just by prompting, a video that has the same quality as almost a Hollywood movie. It's that good. And they've done it like just the space of a couple of years. So if you look at the pace and the rhythm with which AI is evolving over time, it's like almost doubling its capacity and doubling its accuracy every year. Again, it's not, doubling is just like just to show how fast it is growing. It's not exactly that. But all I'm saying, the pace of innovation and the pace of evolution of AI is very fast. And I think regulation has a hard time to catch on. Okay. Now, if you read the article, Hollywood is like all over the place. Everybody like there feel threatened from this new app. And it's only going to get more accurate and more powerful with time. I mean, month by month, it's going to probably get more powerful. So things are evolving at a very fast pace. And that's making it hard for people to catch up and for regulation to catch up. And this is where kind of at the end of the day, you're gonna suddenly feel that some industries or some sectors are gonna feel like strengthened overnight, and then those people don't have enough time to re-skill themselves and then reconvert themselves in another industry that is resistant to this AI revolution. So this is where kind of the main challenge is residing. As we speak today, things are evolving very fast. And yeah, so this is kind of what I think is something that we should probably collectively address as human beings, because I always believe at the end of the day that the most important aspect here is us, as humans. We should not be controlled by the technology, but we should control the technology. When the day comes where we feel that we are out of control and the technology is overcoming us, I think that's trouble.
It's interesting because I think Elon Musk, you cannot really blame as he definitely is not a socialist or like a communist in any way in any way, shape or form. He's a Republican. He's very fond of Donald Trump, and he's a capitalist and a businessman in every shape or form. And even he says it's inevitable that we will have universal basic high income, which is interesting because usually this is more socialist idea, more from the left an idea. And I think today nobody would blame Elon Musk for being too left. And so him bringing up that idea was really interesting. And I also see that kind of theme that the people that are really into AI bring up that idea of universal basic income or even universal basic high income up a lot more than other sectors do. How do you look at that? And like, is that a future we kind of have to go? Because you all kind of talked like if people don't. People kind of have to be compensated. Like if we create a lot of wealth, maybe we kind of have to go there anyways.
I mean, again, this may play out if it's actually properly executed. The problem with these things and with these technologies, you are going to trust that the owners of that power now, like all those AI systems that now will concentrate all the wealth and all the productivity within their hands, you will have to kind of wait that they keep their promise by actually redistributing the power and then the money that they're making, right? So if this is true, then yeah, this is good. But what is the guarantee that actually people like Elon Musk or all the technologists that have all the money and all the power, because they own those AI systems at the end of the day, will actually redistribute the wealth? And then on which basis will this be done? And then who's compelling them to do so? So this is the main question. You see what I mean? This is where I kind of, again, if there's like a clear path and a clear mechanism on how this will happen and how fast this will happen, then yes, that would be reassuring that everybody will have high income over time and everybody will benefit from AI in an equal or in a fair way, right? But history has taught us that usually when power is concentrated in the hands of a few, they are usually very resistant to share it with the masses. That's the problem, right? I mean, if you look at the lessons of the past, it was not the case. Usually, when you have the power, you are more likely to just keep it within your own tight circle. And then that's where kind of regulation should be enforced. That's where, maybe law should actually play a role. I think, and I do believe, by the way, that our systems of law and our regulation, they should play a much more active role in regulating AI in a way that ensures that it's not used only by a select minority to control a majority. This is kind of where I believe like lawyers, lawmakers, if we have good people there who really care for the common good, they should kind of act quickly to really ensure that everybody is benefiting from those disruptive technologies.
It's interesting because I have this belief that a corrupt system will always be corrupted, and I believe that humans will act in their own best interests, and so for me, the only way a universal basic high income will come if enough people are literally out of work and there is kind of what is the word that I'm searching for? Civil war in danger. I think this is if wealthy people and politicians see, if they don't pay everyone and care for everyone in a big way, if they don't do that, then there's civil war. I think that's the moment where it comes. And I think AI can actually bring us there. I still am not a big fan of universal basic high income because I don't think the solution is to give everyone something. It's like if you give everyone it's hard because AI brings a lot of efficiency to the market. But what if you give everyone in the world $1 million tomorrow? The $1 million would be shrinking in purchasing power till everyone gets it so far that the $1 million probably only give you like 2 weeks of groceries instead of like a lot of wealth. So I have a lot of economic questions of how this would even work, like how we even go there.
Exactly.
But if we actually have a world where AI can have agents in the digital world and have agents in the physical world that make all the necessary work for us. They can produce the electricity themselves that they use to power up. They make the food for us. They make the shelter for us. And you can basically say in an app like, hey, I would like to move there. And you just like, AI comes to your door, takes all your stuff and moves you to a different city. And you don't have to do anything more because we've figured kind of out AI and robots can do whatever we want them to do. And it's basically at zero cost because they're producing themselves and they're also producing the energy and making sure the energy grid is sufficient. I mean, that's a utopia I personally don't think I will get to. But if that's the case, maybe we don't even need money. Like I think if you just like have technology and I don't say that will happen. I'm just like entertaining the thought.
Yes, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying, and it's, I mean, we all know, to be honest, how this future will unfold, and in what form or way will actually AI transform our lives. Um, but again, the main challenge is the following, as you've said. Um, how in reality, let's say what Elon Musk is saying is going to happen, like everybody will not need to work and everybody will have high income. All right, what is the mechanism, and how will actually this will translate? As you said, if you're just going to distribute some money, and then the money over time will not have any value anyway, right? Because any service is anyway rendered by AI. You don't even need to pay it, probably, because at the end of the day, when AI, let's keep that in mind, when AI in the long term become pervasive, the cost of AI is going to go down tremendously. So that's that's the classic deflation of a technology when it becomes widely adopted, right? In the beginning, when we have computers were very expensive. Now a computer is very cheap. So same thing is going to happen with AI. So the point is, in reality, how will the wealth will be, how will it be redistributed? That's one. But then second, imagine that all the wealth is, let's say that you have access to all the technology, and all of us have access to that. The more important question for me, at least, is the following. If I have all the luxuries of life easily, okay, if I don't have to do anything, if I don't have to do any effort to get the service rendered, and it's cheap, what does this leave me with? Will my life have the same meaning as it does today? You see what I mean? Because I also believe that we as a human being, we thrive with challenges. We thrive with when there is an obstacle to overcome, when there is some fight that you are going through, right, in life, when you are like facing difficulties and overcoming them. If everything and anything will come to you at the push of a button, will that make you depressed, for example, or will that make your life feel empty? This is kind of, I think, the bigger question that is even that we will face as human beings on the longer run. So this is kind of where the there are lots of questions, and one of them is more, to me, is also more related to existentialism. What is the meaning of your existence if you no longer need to do anything? You wake up every day, everything is I mean, everything is ready for you. You don't have to make any effort. I don't know if you've seen the movie. There's a movie that I've seen like maybe 10 years or more ago called Wall-E, and it talks about this a little bit. It shows you a universe, and it's a very kind of visionary movie, because it talks about the future where this is exactly happening. Robots are actually doing everything and all the jobs that humans used to do, and then humans became lazy creatures, not doing anything, sleeping all day, and then you feel like humanity is in a state that is actually very it's not a good state to be in. So that's, to me, a bigger question to ask.
I very strongly believe that we will never have a world without money, because people always want to be in a ranking system. People really want to know that they're better than the neighbors, and they have the fancy watches. Like, why do we buy a car for $600,000? Like, there's no need for a car for that amount of money. There's cars for like $1, $2, $3 million. That's just a comparison ranking kind of thing. Like, here, see what I can buy myself. Like, it's literally that, because you can get a car also for $100,000, which is probably better, more practical, is nicer in many ways, shape, or form than $1 million car. It's just like, up to a certain extent, you don't need to overspend. Even $100,000 car is already very expensive. You can probably go down the line of like $50,000, $60,000. I don't know what the perfect point of convenience for a car is, but it's definitely not $1 million. And so, why do we overspend $4,000, $10,000, or $5,000 on a new Rolex or something like that? Because we want to portray, show status. We want to show something like, see how great we are. And so I think, I might be wrong, would actually be good if I'm wrong. I think we always want to have kind of ranking system, and money is kind of a communication layer how we can communicate our status to the outside world, because we can buy things with that. Now, we actually had a guest on twice already that talks about the idea of a moneyless society. He's like, Bitcoin will be the last money, and then we will go to a state of no money at all.
Oh, okay.
I find it always super interesting to talk with him, but I just can't get on board with that thesis. I still think humans will always have some kind of ranking system, communication layer. I mean, we went now far off the topic of Bitcoin and AI, but I think that's might be where AI and Bitcoin brings us.
No, it's. I mean, what you're talking about is a very relevant and very kind of important philosophical implication. And that's true. What you're saying is true, because we are in a human society that is hierarchical by nature. So you're right. As a human tribe, we've always functioned like that. You have like layers. You have like, classes. You have, and again, I had to use those words, but that's the reality of how it is. You have people who are educated, people who are not educated, people who are successful, people who are not successful. And it's not because we want to feel better, but it's simply because at the end of the day, we compare. It's like a sports competition, right? You want to be like the strongest. You want to kind of break the record that the previous person has done. So we want to overcome ourselves. It's a way for us to, this differentiation is a way for us to put or to shine the light on our strength, right? Every person has different strength. Some people have an excellent track record in, maybe in investing. Some others are excellent at art, at making nice paintings. So every person wants to shine in a way in their own light. And success itself is something that has always driven human beings toward getting better and toward achieving. And it's a big, in my opinion, it's a big driver of meaning. All of us derive meaning from our achievements, right? So we do things because it gives us meanings to our lives, and it keeps us going in a way. By killing that, as you mentioned before, like by making the society more like equal, in that sense that you don't need to work anymore. Everything is already provided for you. You don't need to save money anymore, because you can have anyway the best car now that all cars are available for everyone. All the latest technological cars are available for everyone. When you kill that differentiation, you're right. You're killing at the same time the sense of meaning. And in my opinion as well, this is something, that's a kind of a big dilemma. Is this good or bad? Some people would argue, yeah, it's good, because everybody's now equal. We are fair, it's fair, blah, blah. These are probably people on the left-hand side, right? And then other people would say, no, it's not great, because you will lose the sense of meaning. You will not have any incentive to work and to become better. And then it might hurt your psychology. And that might be people on the right-hand side. Who knows? Again, I'm trying to simplify here. But broadly speaking, that's capitalism and socialism, right? These are like the two flip side of the same coin at the end of the day. My opinion is the following. I tend to be a person who values balance in life. I don't like extremes. I think that every extreme at a certain point in time will have problems, and then you're going to go back to a cycle where the other extreme is going to come. So I believe that we as a human being should always make the right, we should always strike the right balance. And too much comfort is not good. It's going to kill your ambition, and it's going to kill your ability to become better. But on the flip side as well, too much differentiation between the classes, and then you have that civil war, right? Because you have some people who have all the privileges, and then some people who have nothing. Then you have the civil war. I think we're going to find the solution somewhere in the middle. That's what I think is going to likely be the scenario. So that's where probably regulation and law will have to temper a little bit this huge disruption that AI is doing, so that things still make sense.
It's so fascinating. I just sadly saw we are at the end of our time already because it's such a fascinating topic to go in and go in deep with where Bitcoin will lead us, where AI will lead us. And one thing I'm very certain of, you have to pay attention. You have to kind of be at the forefront of both of technologies, because then you can ensure no matter what actually happens, you will be fine, and you will be probably more than even fine if you actually pay attention and operate in those systems. That's why I try to use all new tools in AI, even though I sometimes have a hard time operating in them. Really cool. Thank you so much, Imad, for being on the podcast already. We have one end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. And the previous guest asked you the question, what is the biggest mistake that you have personally made with Bitcoin?
The biggest mistake I have personally made with Bitcoin is not entering into Bitcoin earlier. I wish I had entered Bitcoin earlier in my life. This is kind of something that is on me. I mean, as I said before, again, I don't want to blame it on external circumstance. I was not able to get it, but I think if I had dived deeper at that time, I would still have found a way to make it happen. Maybe by traveling somewhere and then buying and then coming back, or maybe buying through someone else and then having that Bitcoin transferred to me. But yeah, so that's, I think, my biggest mistake, because I believe in that technology. And yeah, this is kind of, I don't know if this answers your question.
Yeah, I was expecting that answer, because it's like almost the biggest mistake everyone that has made with Bitcoin, like not getting it earlier. It's kind of a shame. Yeah, I've came into Bitcoin in 2020, and I already saw it in 2017. I had conversations about it. I had a friend group that was already into it, and I'm like, why did I not buy? Like, why did you not even research? I wasn't even like, I didn't even research it, like it felt so like I could have at least formed an opinion on that. But yeah, it cost me 3 years, and it cost me a lot of purchasing power, that mistake. But I'm glad I at least got it in 2020, and I'm glad I'm now in them. There's still a lot of people out there that don't use AI and don't own Bitcoin. And I'm like, how can you survive in 2026 without those two things?
Absolutely. And I think people in the future will say the same thing about us. I mean, they will think that we are early adopters, but we think about the generation before us as the early adopters, right? So I think this is going to only repeat itself.
If someone sees this in 10 years, we look like OGs.
Yeah, you said it right.
Thank you so much, Imad, for being on the podcast and being such a gracious host, gracious guest on my podcast. Before I let you go, where can people find you personally, reach out to you, and also find your amazing podcast?
Absolutely. First, thank you for having me, Robin. It was a fascinating discussion to talk about all these exciting topics with you. When it comes to my podcast, so you can find it easily if you type on Google or YouTube IJK Podcast. So my podcast name is IJK Podcast. You can also find me on my website. I have, on my website, you can see even some of my music, the music that I produce. So it's Imad, IMAD, Jack, JACK, Karam, KARAM, imadjackkaram.com. And yeah, there you have all the latest news and releases from me. So yeah, thank you again for this episode, Robin. It was a pleasure.
And maybe a good starting point for everyone that is wanting to give your podcast a try is this. I think this was your by far the best guest that you so far had, like this Robin guy.
Oh yeah, he was fantastic. It was really a very good episode, because we really, I think, nailed the topic of what Bitcoin really means. And I think it means, to be honest, it means future success and being part of this exciting technology that is going to hopefully be more and more part of our daily lives in the future. So yeah, it was a great episode. I highly recommend this guest. Very knowledgeable about Bitcoin.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So maybe people can take it as a starting point for your podcast. So thank you so much, Imad, for being on the podcast. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.